6 times or 5 times he has gone from this checkpoint. They have hit him each time with the same kind of weapon, which was Zikayak and DSHK, but that was a heavy weapon. When evening was approaching, at that very time, a mortar had landed there. When the mortar hit, our mother had been martyred. Only one scream came out of her mouth, and when we reached her, she was targeted.
The silence of innocent martyrs is the voice of the living's awakening. The waving of flags on the graves portrays a great picture of struggle. Schools, madrasas, and other educational institutions were not safe either, and no one could come to them wholeheartedly. That is why the people of Mosahi now offer thanks to the Eternal Lord for His blessings, as the great darkness of occupation has been lifted from them.
In the past 20 years, there was a time when fathers and mothers would send their children to school with a kind of worry, whether their son would return home safe and sound or not. And we have an example of this. We had a student named Omid. He was from the village of Shahid Khan, and he was relocated to the Haji Malangian area. Eventually, he was martyred. During those times of war, there was also a military base next to our school. There came a time when, during the day, fighting and gunfire would break out. Our classes would be completely disrupted and all the students were filled with anxiety. In fact, during those clashes, in our own village, my nephew, whose name was Humayun, the son of Headmaster Tofan, was martyred at home. And one of our students, named Omid Jan, was also martyred, as a result of the fighting.
Scholars, farmers, teachers, and even students could not safely attend their schools, because every inch of Mosahi's land was burning with bullets and gunpowder. Hamidullah, with his son's certificates of achievement laid out before him, recounts the story of his son's martyrdom. He was a 12th grade student, and his death broke his back, a pain too deep to bear.
My son was in 12th grade. At 12 o'clock, when school ended, one of the teachers told him to go bring a copy of his ID card. He got the copy, but it made him late. On his way back, they pointed a PK, machine gun, at him and shot him in the chest. He collapsed. That I was at home when I got the call. I felt a strike in my heart. I thought, why is he late today? He usually comes home at noon, but today he's late. Then the phone rang again. They told me, come quickly, your son has been shot on the way. The army fired at him, and he's wounded. Just come once. When I got there, it was evening and already dark. I finally reached, and saw he was already laid in a coffin. I lifted the glass of the coffin and looked at him. I said to him, you broke my back. You left me alone. He was my right hand, and now he's gone. My other kids are still small. I sit with them now, and all my hopes are with them. I pray to God that they grow up well. The poor boy left with many dreams. He used to say, I'll become a doctor. Sometimes, I'll become an engineer. He would tell me, Father, you're fixing tires and doing manual labor. This is hard work. He had a deep love for the pen. He was very young, maybe 18 or 19. And he was giving his final 12th grade exam. He was 6th position in his class. He used to say, Father, whatever it takes, even if I have to borrow money, I will go to university. I'll go to Kabul and say I'm attending a university, and I'll make something of myself.
One is left speechless, unsure which pain or tragedy of the homeland and its people to reflect upon. How can words capture the story of a father, brother, mother, or son's martyrdom?
I personally used to teach Islamic studies and tafsir in 12th grade. When gunfire would break out, the students wouldn't pay attention to me at all. They were filled with worry and fear, even if the gunfire was far away. They would still wonder where it's happening and what's going on. They couldn't focus on the lesson. It was not a peaceful environment at all. But now, alhamdulillah, those thoughts have completely left their minds. The learning spirit of the students, compared to 4 years ago, has changed. Back then, students would come to school filled with anxiety. They would sit in class thinking, what will happen to us? Because their fathers were all farmers. They worried, is my father wounded? What's happening to the children at home? Now, the learning environment is peaceful. The students' minds are at peace. God willing, they are now learning better, and there is no more fear.
The 20 years of occupation in the Mosahi district were a dark, unwelcome shadow, a time of unchecked horrors and relentless oppression. Each day etched a new tragedy into the memory of history. People were so terrified by the constant wars that they could not even step outside their homes. Every human life stood on the edge of death. Everyone was running, just to survive.
Shells used to fall in such a way that some people were on the bridge. Some in wells, some in ditches, and some running for their lives. People were fleeing, carrying whatever they could, even animals were being taken toward homes. Mortar rounds were hitting everything, people, animals, everything. Everyone was terrified, especially in this lower area. My son's name was Humayun, known as Ulozi. He was a very good person, prayed 5 times a day. He used to go to the mosque of Khan and Kale every Friday morning and read a full part of the Holy Quran. One day, a shell came. I was on the other side of the courtyard. It hit here. He shouted, Allahu Akbar, and fell.
A son is so dear. I looked through the car window, there was gunfire in the crowded market, and people rushed to hide inside the pharmacy. Moments later, when things calmed down a bit, we ran to the scene. My son was wounded. We lifted him into the car, blood was pouring from his wounds. After examining him at the hospital, the doctor said, he has been martyred, his life has been returned to the giver.
My car was parked on the side of the road, and my son was inside it. One of my sons came and said, Father, the army is attacking. I said, oh, my leg is also hurt, and you are with me. At that moment, the shooting started. Screams and cries filled the clinic. My son stayed inside the car. One of my sons ran to follow his brother, who was in the car. The doctor angrily told him, don't go. Everyone rushed into the clinic's corners. I looked at my son through the glass. Children are very precious. For 1 or 2 minutes, it lasted. When we came out, my son ran to the car but was wounded and bleeding. He was already martyred.
The farmer of this land not only shed sweat for the green crops but also sacrificed his blood for the freedom of the homeland. But when the occupiers took control of the pure skies of the country, Mosahi too became stained with pain, filled with raids, bombings, arrests, killings, and oppression by the invaders. It reached a point where the occupiers would set dogs on people and trample on human dignity without shame.
First, they threw hand grenades at the house. Then, the shouting started. My father was alive at that time. May God forgive him. They called out, who is there? They said, we are here. They told my father to call the sons to come out. We all went out. I went up and they asked me questions. After questioning, they took me down the house, and stopped me there. After that, they beat me a lot. After beating, he told me to tell the condition. I said, what condition? At that time, I was doing farming and labor work. After the beating, I did not say anything. After beating, they released a dog on me, not once but twice that night. Once at the place where he was outside, and then brought me back home. I was standing in the yard, and at that moment, they released the dog again. He overturned him, bit him once on the right side, and then on the other side. Then our late Haji Sahib shouted at them, "O oppressors, don't do that to him." After that, he asked me, "Who is your brother?" I said, "He is our brother completely." I told them to give us some time because his documents were in the file. They said, "We don't have that much time." After this, they beat him again, then took him outside to the bushes, brought him back inside the courtyard, and beat him again. When the dog grabbed him, clamped on his mouth, I caught it here. When I didn't catch it, I shouted and pushed it back. Then it was released again, and I caught it in the yard. After that, they stepped back. While beating, I bit the dog too. Later, I brought him back inside the house. Outside the house, on this hill in the darkness, a bullet passed through. They told me, "Hurry, tell us what happened." I said, "What should I say? I didn't see anything." After that, they released the dog again. The dog was released twice on me in the yard, and I bit it back.
The invaders showed no mercy to animals, let alone humans. They tore them to pieces with mortar shells. And any human who tried to save them was not left safe.
It was summer, and my brother and I were sleeping in the yard. After eating, and praying the evening prayer, we went back to sleep in the yard. After half an hour, a fierce fight started. Within 5 minutes, a mortar landed near the door of our house. 2 cows and 1 goat were hit and killed by the mortar. My brother and I ran. My mother was holding me tightly, telling me, "Don't move, I'm shaking." My brother seemed as if he knew he would be martyred. He said, "Don't come, I will see if another mortar comes." Another mortar hit, and it landed just there. We carried him upstairs to the room. His head was on my lap, he made 2 or 3 breaths and then passed away. We had no more hope. Our mother was ill at that time. We said, "Our mother cannot tolerate his martyrdom." When he said the kalima, my brother moved his lips but couldn't speak anymore. He said the kalima and then closed his eyes. He was martyred. Our house was in such a bad condition, cows were all dead, blood was everywhere, and the windows were all broken.
Now, in those fields where the flames of explosives once burned during the occupation, the hungry northern winds gently ripple through the wheat. There are many stories of people's suffering. Some lost their lives, others were left disabled, and many have suffered such heavy financial losses that they still cannot escape the burden.
This year would have been the 5th year since the conquest. 1 year before the victory, bullets came. There was an outpost up there, above the area of the Malangan. 1 bullet came and hit outside, another one hit in the middle of the house. That day, by the grace of God, the population at home was small, fewer people. My sister-in-laws went to their father's houses. Just my wife, I mean their mother, and the other was my other sister-in-law, which were left in the house. My sister-in-law was hit here on the arm, some are still there. And 4 animals, 1 cow, 1 calf, 1 goat, and 1 sheep, all were dead.
At the foot of the mountains, amidst the peaceful atmosphere of nature and the grazing places of livestock, stands a wounded, sorrowful, and hopeless young man of the homeland, whose heart still bears the scars and wounds of the occupation.
I was in the shelter. I came out of the shelter and went home tired and exhausted. I came and sat in the room. At that moment, government bullets came and hit inside the house. The first bullet didn't hit me, it hit beside me. One of our cows was hit and wounded by it and stayed wounded for a long time. Then another bullet came and hit the wall of our room. That side, my right side, got very wounded. I can show you that these are the places where I got hit. It's not just one place, there are many places. One side of me, my hand and leg, don't work anymore. So, I walk with a stick. I see people there playing cricket, football, or having fun. In my heart, I also wish I were like them. I wish I could do that too. Everyone has such a desire. Definitely I am in a lot of pain.
At 11 o'clock at night, the invaders raided with terror. They climbed onto the rooftops and pounded on the doors with sticks. They dragged the men out of their homes and threw them into prisons, causing them to lose 11 years of their village and life. When they finally returned, everything was buried under dust. Homes were in ruins, and the once fruitful fields had turned into scorched deserts.
When the raid came, it was 11 o'clock at night. I was upstairs in this room, right across from this door. They knocked loudly on the door. They came up to the roof and then entered. I went to that place. They understood where I went. They tied 3 brothers here, in this very spot, right on this sofa in front of me. Then, with great cruelty, they took them away. They took my mother out and also the children. There were screams and cries. Those were dark days. After they took them, I was caught 21 days later. The crops and wheat were left like that. The whole house became hopeless and abandoned. All those children went back to their fathers. For 11 years, our house remained like that. You can see how the house became ruined, completely destroyed.
These raids were not merely military operations. They were declared disasters against the honor, faith, and culture of a living people. Bombs would fall, but the villagers' prayers would rise up to the sky. Their schools were destroyed, and the marks of the occupiers' red bullets still remain on the walls of homes and mosques.
In the year 1379, Islamic calendar, our respected Maulawi Sahib, who was the founder of this madrasa that you now see, built this madrasa and served as the imam in this large mosque for approximately 22 years. He also laid the foundation of this mosque himself. Because of his service to the Muslim community and to the general welfare of Muslims, the disbelievers, or their local agents, raided him, and he was martyred in his own home. They treated him in such a way that they placed a gun beside him, to give the impression to the world that he had resisted them. Even though he was in his own room, in his own bed, in his resting place. And the level of cruelty, it's hard for us even to say. To martyr someone in front of his children. And then to treat his body with such brutality, like he was an animal. They put him in what they call an animal shelter. It was in that pen, after severe beatings and terrible torture, that our brother was martyred. Then, about 40 days later, another raid was carried out on one of our brothers, a nephew. He too was taken from one room to another within the house and martyred. Without any crime. Without having done anything that posed a threat to the system, to society, or to the Muslim community.
Abdul Wahid is an eyewitness and a victim of these raids. The invaders captured him innocent and tortured him so severely that even years later, he still suffers pain and hardship from those wounds.
They were oppressing and abusing. They were annoying. Such a raid come upon me one night. I had my brothers with me at night. My brother and another younger brother were with me, named Kari Shamsu Rahman. My nephew named Abdul Rahim. That night, they caught me again, put a knife around my neck, and record the video. So, they beat me very hard. Then they beat me here with a knife. The sign is still here in my body. There were 8 brothers. Out of the 8 brothers, 1 brother was left without a prison cell. The 8 brothers would leave, 1 would enter, the other would enter. The calculations were as if we had taken it for granted.
Despite all these brutal oppressions, horrors, tortures, blind bombings, and night raids, this people, this land, and Mosahi never surrendered.
Here, so many people have been affected, common people, scholars, office workers, students, teachers, doctors, women. At the time, our people raised their voices and said these are the people who stay here 24 hours a day. Even to get their basic necessities, they have to go daily or weekly to the city. So, you could arrest them any day through the Mosahi district's police. If you had any misunderstanding, question, or suspicion about them, none of it was considered or respected. Instead, they deliberately did this to spread fear among these people and force the people to leave this place, to create terror among the people. The terror they inflicted was deliberate. They did this so they could force this Muslim and Mujahid nation to submit to their occupation. They wanted to prepare the ground for that. But thank God, the Muslim nation was here. The Afghan nation stood firmly against them. They always tried, through martyrdoms, wounds, pains, hardships, and prisons, but they never got tired nor did they give up. Thank God, the result was that Allah granted victory to the Muslims.
The faith of our youth, the prayers of the elders, and the patience of the mothers were the secret to our survival. Against the cruelty and terror of the occupiers, the youth rose up, stood firm against them, and with clear conscience. They stood against the American invading forces. Although the occupiers came equipped with modern technology, heavy weapons, and ammunition, they faced determined and brave Afghan souls with pure consciences. Supported by the help of Allah Almighty, these resilient fighters sustained themselves with dry bread in the mountain trenches and launched a relentless struggle against the invaders.
Thank God, for 20 years in the Mosahi district, a very strong jihad took place against the invading Americans. The people fought with great sincerity and struggle. Many young men sacrificed themselves. Thank God, in Mosahi, a large number of infidels were killed by the hands of the Mujahideen, whether they were foreigners or internal collaborators. All their bases were destroyed, thank God. I told you, their commanders died here, and also the puppets of their government died here. The Americans' big leaders, whether provincial chiefs or high officials, all were killed here by the Mujahideen. Mosahi is a very narrow and enclosed area. We had so many Mujahideen here that it's hard to count them. And thank God, whether they were Americans or their allies, they suffered huge casualties here. If you look at the geography of this area and the quantity and quality of the people, the losses were very high. But I will give you an example. Many times, I saw Mujahideen who never got a chance to attack, never got a turn to fight. They commemorated the tragedy with tears.
They never retreated from the front lines against the invading enemy. Day by day, their motivation grew stronger. Eventually, they crushed all the occupiers' goals and stood at the threshold of their defeat. It was that sacred faith and the blessing of reliance on the eternal Lord that empowered them to raise the banners of love, faith, and independence instead of weapons.
But thank God, this jihad and standing against the occupation was an Islamic duty, a religious obligation. Our Sharia commanded us to stand against the occupation, against the infidels, Jews, and Christians, to stand and fight jihad. The first step was fulfilling this religious duty, and the second was that the people were occupied and partly imprisoned by them. But the Mujahideen stood firm against them, thank God. The people of Mosahi, over these 20 years, have made many selfless sacrifices and given many martyrs. Thank God, they have inflicted heavy losses on the enemy here. The enemy has suffered great casualties here. The enemy has neither rested peacefully nor sat comfortably here. For many years, the jihad has been led by the scholars and the knowledgeable people. The scholars understand when it is time to sacrifice ourselves, we should be ready to sacrifice ourselves, or when it is time to sacrifice wealth, when to raise the pen in work. When foreigners came to our homeland, they gave us the religious rulings, Sharia, that jihad must be performed against them, and that fighting must be done. Jihad was a personal obligation, just like the 5 daily prayers are. This belief and duty came from our ancestors and forefathers. So, jihad against them was also a personal obligation. If they had stayed here for another 20 years, I am certain that our Mujahideen would have had the patience and ability to make sacrifices for another 20 years. With Allah's help. Even if they stayed 50 years, God willing, I am confident that with Allah's help, this nation and its Mujahideen would have the strength to face them. And thank God, in these 20 years, this nation and Afghanistan sacrificed so much, stood so bravely against them, that is clear to them. They themselves have seen the sufferings this Afghan nation has endured.
As a national, independent, and dedicated media outlet, we reflect the voice of the people and present the atrocities, horrors, and crimes committed during the 20-year occupation of Afghanistan to both citizens and the international community in a documentary format. If you have witnessed incidents such as raids, killings, atrocities, or other crimes committed by foreign occupying forces in your area during the 20-year occupation, you can share them with us via WhatsApp. We will document these accounts in English and Arabic, in addition to our national languages, and prioritize them for broadcast on national television. Our contact number, 074-434-3668.